Now, ISIS, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, is asking for help by citizens to identify an ISIS butcher who is performing a bombastic and odious tirade in some film that somehow the CIA and the NSA allowed to remain visible on YouTube, and they want you to help identify this person, and it's a scene of an atrocity. It's the murder of Syrian Arab army prisoners. In other words, the Assad, the real Syrian army, the Damascus army of Assad, some of them forced to dig their own graves and then be executed. So we have, and you'll see this, if you go to tarpley.net by the time you hear this, or Twitter feed, you will see a study that we've done, that has been done, of the facial expressions underneath. Lo and behold, it turns out the prime suspect is the senior senator from Arizona. That's right, Walnuts McCain, those telltale bulges in the cheeks. And that's going to be on the social media with the hashtag arrest McCain for ISIS. The number 4 is the Arabic number 4, not the Roman 4, but the Arabic 4. So there it is. The FBI puts that up, and various acute social commentators on the internet. And I want to thank the people that have sent me notifications about that. Thank you very much, because that is exactly to the point. Now, McCain has been kept in the closet by his Republican warmonger confrere. They had Lindsey Graham on the Sunday shows this past week, and Lindsey, of course, was raving. He wants to bomb Assad. He wants to bomb the Syrian Air Force. He says he wants to strike ISIS, but for some reason he doesn't want to strike ISIS. He wants to strike the main enemy of ISIS and thereby help ISIS grow. How you can figure this, I don't know. If this is not Orwellian, I don't know what is. But Lindsey wants to bomb the Syrian Air Force, crater all the runways, and shut down that important means of dealing with these ISIS killers. And that, of course, repeats what Robert Kagan, Romney's top foreign policy advisor from 2012, had said a week or two before. Now, here's what McCain did. McCain went on Bloomberg television, McCain on Bloomberg. So he says, first of all, McCain is asked about the Biden speech of the previous Friday. You'll remember, go to tarpley.net if you haven't got all the details. Biden had said that the biggest problem the U.S. faces with the so-called allies, that people in Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and United Arab Emirates were so obsessed with attacking Assad that they began funding al-Nusra and Al-Qaeda, okay? After 9/11, in the world of these guys, that's pretty horrendous. So what does McCain say? He's indignant, of course, but he's not indignant against the Turks or the Saudis or the Emiratis or the Gulf monarchies. Oh, no. He wants to pin it all on Obama somehow, and indeed Biden. McCain says, of course, he's disappointed with Turkey. He was expecting so much more, as well he might be, after all those billions of dollars, billions upon billions of military aid. You see all those tanks paid for by you, those tanks on the hillside that are sitting there doing nothing. But then McCain goes on and he says, what Erdogan wants, I want. What the president of Turkey wants, this skunk, I want, says McCain. He wants to bomb Assad. He wants to crater the runways. His amigo Lindsey Graham had said it again several days before. So he's then asked, but what about, is it true what Biden says? Yes, he says, of course, he is very disappointed with Qatar in particular. He adds them to the list, that they've really been, overdoing it in paying ISIS and supporting terrorism. But he says, even though what Biden says is true, you shouldn't say so. You shouldn't tell the American people. You should not tell the American people that the so-called allies that you've been holding out are actually backers of terrorism. What was that line we had from Bush? We will make no distinction between the terrorists themselves and those who harbor the terrorists. My God, where would that leave Turkey? Where would that leave Saudi? Where would that leave Qatar? That's just awful. And remember, at the end of this entire exchange between Biden and Erdogan, Erdogan said, if you don't take that back, you're history. Wait a minute. Is that a death threat coming from the president of Turkey to the vice president of the United States? And then McCain says, what Erdogan wants, I want. Does that extend to the death threat, Senator? So this is a scandal that stinks to high heaven. And obviously what we're dealing with here is a con job. I'm going to talk about this in the second segment. This is a phony war. This is quite similar to what we had in 1939, 1940 vis-a-vis Hitler, right now vis-a-vis ISIS, and it allows them to grow as it did allow Hitler to grow. Turkey is essentially saying behind the scenes, we won't lift a finger unless the U.S. bombs Assad to kingdom come. That's the precondition. But wait a minute, you're a NATO ally. You're always screaming and whining that you want help, that you feel threatened by Syria, and now you're putting down preconditions, blackmail, and threats to the United States of America. You have one hell of a nerve, Erdogan. The ultimatum from Obama is long overdue, and it would be, Erdogan, fight ISIS, close the border, or we're kicking you out of NATO. You're on your own. You like the Muslim Brotherhood, see how far you get. This is a scandal. The other thing that occurs to me is that if none of the real Western powers get involved, maybe Russia could help. Maybe Syria, maybe Assad could call in Russian forces and have them secure Kobani. Welcome back to the program. Keep up with everything at Tarpley.net, Tarpley.net. Through Tarpley.net, you can see the Twitter feed. This week I had broadcasts on KDKA, Pittsburgh, with my good friend Chris Moore, Press TV, commentary also up there, other items coming. There's a whole policy on Ebola from United Front Radio. So what should be done? Remember, Turkey has mastered the art of cross-border incursions when they want to. When the U.S. was occupying Iraq, the Turks would periodically come across the border into northern Iraq, into the Kurdistan part of Iraq, and they would attack camps of the PKK, Turkish Workers' Party, who are now, scorned, of course, by Turkey. So they know how to do this. It's not an invasion. They go in, they clobber whoever's there, and then they come out again. You could do that in this case, right? Obviously, you'd want to coordinate everything with Damascus. But if you were going to go in there to lift the siege and kill a bunch of ISIS, then I don't think Damascus would have any objection. The ultimatum to Turkey is the first thing, right? Close that border. No more support for ISIS. We want to use the Incirlik Air Force Base for whatever turns out to be the most promising thing. Stop giving diplomatic support, ideological cover to ISIS. Drop your agitation for a buffer zone or a no-fly zone. A buffer zone and or no-fly zone means a total bombing campaign against all of Syria. There will be U.S. planes shot down, and then you're on the track towards something much bigger, maybe general war, maybe World War III. What will Russia do? Will anybody else do something? What will Iran do? This is all crazy. The point is, work with existing governments. If your enemy is this awful non-state actor, which it is, although it's not as powerful, they're not 10 feet tall, are they? The ISIS supermen are highly vulnerable. Work with the Syrian government of Assad the Iranian government in Tehran, work with Russia, work with other sane, established government forces to crush these crazies. You've got to arm the Kurds. That means arm the Syrian Kurds, not just the Iraqi Kurds that you know well, but the Syrian Kurds that you don't know so well. You start doing that. Just mention that, and Erdogan will freak, and he will do something because he's afraid of Kurds having modern weaponry. We're told this guy Sanger of the New York Times this morning on NPR says, "Oh no, you can't give weapons to the Syrian Kurds because they might give them to al-Nusra." Wait a minute. The Syrian Kurds are the main enemies of ISIS and these other people. They're saying, give weapons to the non-existent Free Syrian Army, and then that'll be fine. Of course, if you give it to the Free Syrian Army, it's guaranteed to go into the hands of ISIS, since these people are the same. Ultimatum to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and other Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC states, Gulf monarchies, reactionary monarchs of the Gulf. Stop supporting ISIS, not with your government, not with your private banking system. No way are you supporting them. And that would include places like Jordan. Right? The Jordanian army by itself could finish off ISIS in a couple of weeks. The question came up on NPR today, if ISIS is the end of the world, and if they're using the internet so well, why doesn't the NSA knock the ISIS sites off the internet? Good question. David Sanger, an eager yes man and apologist for the regime, says, oh no, we can't do that because if we did that to ISIS, then the Chinese might go and take down the websites of various terrorist groups operating vis-a-vis China, and they could say, well, you do it, we can do it too. Isn't that ridiculous? Now, all of this ideological atmosphere, this is the phony war.